Thumbs up, and did you know my brand new keto recipe book called Keto Life is out now worldwide? Link to purchase the book is in the video description box just below this video. Hey guys, my name is Sahil, and while growing up in India, if anyone ever said meatloaf to me, I would be thinking, I will do anything for love. But I definitely won't do that. But meatloaf is a comfort food for a lot of people, and come to think of it, I've actually been making my own version of meatloaf, except that I called it the bacon bomb. If you haven't seen that recipe, click here on the I button and watch it. However, today we are doing a different kind of meatloaf. We're doing obviously a keto meatloaf, but this is a more simple, rustic and home style meatloaf, and we are going to be making a delicious tomato based sauce to go with it. It's kind of like a mix of barbecue and tomato ketchup, except that it's easier and simpler to make than my other recipes. In fact, if you want a slightly more elaborate barbecue sauce, click here on the I button and watch my keto barbecue sauce recipe. But anyway, enough jibber jabber, let's get cooking. So the first thing we're going to do is preheat our oven to 200 degrees Celsius. The next thing we're going to do is get a pan on the stove because we want to cook our vegetables. And into the pan goes a very generous portion of butter. Oh yeah! And just let that butter melt. What we're basically going to be doing now is softening the vegetables for our meatloaf. Yes, there are vegetables in the meatloaf. Once the butter has melted, I'm going to add in some chopped onions. And then of course I'm going to give it all a good mix, and now we're going to cook the onions till they turn nice and translucent and start to soften. Cook those onions, and once they have softened and turned translucent, I'm going to add in some mushrooms. Now these are just your standard white mushrooms, and don't be alarmed if they look like a lot. They are going to release all their water and shrink down. Of course, don't forget to season your mushrooms with salt and pepper. And then, ladies and gentlemen, give it all a good mix. And now we're going to cook the mushrooms on a medium to medium high heat, and you're going to see the mushrooms are going to release all their water, and then you're going to cook it till all that liquid dries up and the mushrooms start to get caramelized and get some color on them. So let those mushrooms cook. This takes a bit of time. And the reason we are cooking the mushrooms is because mushrooms have a lot of water, as you saw, and if you put them raw in your meatloaf, it'll just fall apart because there'll be just so much liquid coming out of these mushrooms. Anyway, cook those mushrooms, and once that water has dried up and your mushrooms are ready, we're going to add in some freshly chopped garlic. Yeah baby, that's because I like garlic, and garlic is such a beautiful taste. I love the flavor of garlic. Anyway, give that all a good mix, and now we're going to cook this for about a minute or two till the garlic starts to cook and soften as well. Now I'm just letting the vegetables cook and soften, but if you want to get some extra flavor, you can turn the heat up and try and get some more of that brown color on the mushrooms and onions, which will give it a more caramelized flavor. Anyway, after about 2 minutes of cooking that garlic, I'm adding in some bell peppers. Red and yellow bell peppers, because I just love the taste of bell peppers and they will go great in our meatloaf. So give it all a good mix, and once again the whole idea here is just to soften the bell peppers, get out some of the liquid that's there in these vegetables so that they don't basically do that in the oven. Anyway, once your bell peppers have been cooking for about a minute or two, we're going to finish this off by adding some cream cheese. Oh yeah! And then I'm just going to turn the heat off and mix in that cream cheese. Now I'm not looking to cook the cream cheese, but I just want it to melt and coat all the vegetables and be nice and thick and creamy. Now the cream cheese is optional. You can also use some sour cream, or if you want it to be dairy free, just skip the cream cheese altogether. Anyway, now we're just going to let this vegetable mixture cool down. The next thing we're going to do is get onto the meat of the meatloaf, and I'm going to be using some ground beef and some ground pork. You can use all beef or all pork or lamb or chicken or any meat that you like to make this meatloaf. I'm going to season the meat very generously with some salt, some black pepper powder, my favorite paprika. You can use smoked paprika, Hungarian paprika, whatever paprika you like. Some mixed dried herbs. This is just a very generic dried herb seasoning, probably oregano and some other stuff. Some fresh herbs with some freshly chopped parsley. Some Parmesan cheese, and if you don't have Parmesan, you can use whatever cheese you like. Then in goes the creamy vegetables that we made. Only after it's cooled down, ladies and gentlemen. Don't put it in while it's hot. And make sure you use a silicone spatula to scrape out every bit of that delicious creamy goodness. And I'm going to crack in 2 whole eggs, and the eggs will help bind everything together. And then comes the most important part, giving it all a good mix. And I had to very precautiously mix this because even the biggest bowl in my house was not big enough for this meatloaf. So anyway, I carefully mixed it all in, and I was tempted to use my hands, but I just was really feeling lazy and did not want to get my hands dirty. So I used that fork and I successfully managed to give it all a good mix. Then to make the meatloaf, I decided to try something brave and use a loaf tin that I had at home. So I just gave it a good rinse because the water that would be left over in the loaf tin would help it slide easily out of the tin when I turned it over. So anyway, I filled the tin up with as much of the meat mixture as I could. Then I got my baking tray and I overturned that loaf tin onto the tray, and my meatloaf looked pretty good. But since I had a lot more of the meat mixture left, I had to do a little bit of editing, so to speak. So I just plonked it on the sides and I just pushed it all together, and well, I had my meatloaf ready to go into the oven. So I did just that. I put it in the oven and then let it cook for 45 minutes to an hour. Now while the meatloaf cooks, it's time to make the sauce, and we're going to get our pan on the stove once again, and it's going to start with some butter. Oh yeah. So put in a generous helping of butter into that pan and let it start to melt. Once the butter has melted, I'm going to add in some tomato puree, and this is just some stuff out of a Tetra pack, but of course you can just freshly puree tomatoes yourself. About 200 grams of puree will be enough. Into that I'm going to add some chicken stock. I'm also going to add some Worcestershire sauce. I'm also going to add some Dijon mustard, but you can add any mustard that you like. And I'm going to add a little bit of stevia for some sweetness. And I'm going to season it with some salt and some pepper. And I'm going to give it all a good mix now. And well, I'm just going to cover it and let it cook for a good 10 to 15 minutes. And of course, every once in a while, open that lid, give it all a good mix to make sure that nothing is sticking or burning. You basically want to reduce this down to a nice thick consistency, like a syrup almost. So anyway, I did that once or twice, and when it looked like it was ready, well, I just took that sauce out and put it in a bowl. And at the end of it, I had a delicious, quick and easy sort of keto tomato / barbecue sauce. And halfway through cooking the meatloaf, I took it out, I put some of that sauce on top, I spread it around all over, and then I put the meatloaf back in the oven to continue cooking. And oh yeah, after 60 minutes of cooking, our meatloaf is ready. And it looks huge. It looks like it could feed a family of 15 at least. I don't even know how I'm going to get it out of that baking tray. Anyway, I'm going to have to use my double spatula technique and get it out of that roasting tray. Now, don't throw away any of those juices from the resting tray. Just run it through a strainer, and ladies and gentlemen, that is liquid gold right there. That is a flavor bomb. And into that flavor bomb, I'm actually going to put our sauce back into that. Yes, because we want to amp up this barbecue sauce. So I'm going to give it all a good mix, and now I'm going to throw it back into the pan just for a few minutes to thicken it up a little bit more and intensify those flavors. And ladies and gentlemen, the sauce is ready, the meatloaf is ready, and oh yeah, Anyway, I've got to cut into it and show you how delicious it looks. And that's it. Meatloaf with the ultimate cheats tomato / barbecue sauce is ready. Anyway, enough jibber jabber. Let's taste. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to taste the meatloaf, and look who's joining us on the tasting today. It's my dad, Mickey Makija.
It's been a while since I've been on any of his episodes, guys, but this looks like a feast, a meat feast. Let's taste.
Yes, and while he tastes, I'm going to let you know that there's a lot of information I wanted to share with you about this meatloaf, and you can go to headbangerskitchen.com and get that info. The link is in the description box just below this video. And while he tells you about his feelings, I will taste.
For starters, there's a lot of meat. In fact, it's all meat.
It's called meatloaf.
Yeah, I know. And it's a little chewy, but I guess that's what gives it the bite.
It's not chewy.
It's like there's a bounce to it. Let's not call it chewy.
It has texture.
Okay, texture.
Chewy people will think like it's some horribly overcooked
No,
thing.
that's why I said it has
Bounce.
a bite.
Yeah, that's from like all the...
It's meat.
I'm very possessive about my meatloaf.
I'm sure he'd probably take this half back after I cut off this camera.
Yeah, no meatloaf for you if you didn't like it.
No, it's good. For my taste, it's a little bland. But anybody who's into meat is going to love it because it's got loads and loads of bite, loads and loads of meats that you can taste. And I'm sure there's more than one kind of meat inside this thing.
There's beef and pork.
See that? Beef and pork. So this is the meat lover's dream.
And it's not bland. It just does not have mirchi in it. It's not spicy. That's what he means. This is a very Indian thing. If there's no mirchi in the food, it's bland. Bland means there's no taste to it.
When I say bland, what I mean is that you taste the meat. You don't taste the blends that have gone into making this meat, which is ideally what should be done with good meat. Like for example, a steak. The less the add-ons to it, the more real the meat you taste, is what I was trying to say.
Okay, I don't know what my dad is talking about. Maybe you figured it out. But either way, I hope you will make this meatloaf and I hope you will enjoy it. And if you find it bland, please throw lots of chili flakes in it, chop up some green chilies, maybe some jalapenos, and just blast it with spice so you can taste nothing but the spice. Anyway, enough jibber jabber from the two of us. We'll go back to squabbling off camera. Anyway, see you on the next episode. Cheers and keep cooking.
I don't think I'll be there on the next episode. This one's put the curtains down on my career in his show.
No, Dad, I love you. I'll make sure I have you on all the shows to taste, no matter how bland the food is. I would do anything for loaf. I would do anything for loaf. But I won't eat carbs. No, 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 I won't eat carbs. But I will do anything for meatloaf. Hey folks, if you've already bought my book Keto Life, I would be super grateful if you could leave a review of the book on Amazon or whichever other website you purchased it from. Anyway, thanks for watching. Do hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed the video, and click here to watch another Headbanger's Kitchen recipe, or click here to listen to some of the music I make. Yep, I'm a musician, 20 years and counting, death metal.